Well, hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine this week. This is my friend, Cathy Heller. Cathy, welcome to the podcast. Give them your 30-second bio on what you do, girl.
My 30-second bio is I'm a mom. I have 3 little girls. I live in LA with my husband. I came out here to be a songwriter. I had a record deal at Interscope and I got dropped from the label and I went and got a day job and I was miserable. And after
Okay, wait. I did not know the music part.
Yeah, the music part is what's behind me on the wall in my office, like Billboard Magazine, Variety, LA Weekly. I was like that girl writing music for shows on ABC and Netflix and Disney and Pretty Little Liars and Switched at Birth. That happened after I got dropped from the label. So I got dropped from the label and then I got a day job and I was miserable. And I was like, what is this about? Like, I didn't grow up just so I could sit at a desk.
Amen,
this doesn't
sister.
feel like me.
Yeah.
So after a year and a half, I was looking in the mirror one day, putting on my pantsuit to go to this office job in Brentwood. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't even recognize myself in the mirror. And I thought, I'm going to ask.
Because of the pants or?
Yeah, because of the blazer. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I'm going to ask a new question, which is there any other way for me to get paid to do what I love? Is there anything between working for someone that I don't want to work for and being lucky, quote unquote? So I used to think it was Beyonce or bust. Either you're Sheryl Crow, you're Taylor Swift, you get lucky, Clive Davis discovers you singing in the back of a church,
right?
Or you work for someone else. So what I did is I asked that question and I guess what you seek is seeking you. I started looking for new answers and I started Googling how else can I make money as a songwriter? This was in 2007.
Yeah.
And I found out that other songwriters were doing this thing called licensing their music to film and TV. And I was like, what's a license? What does that mean? I'm like, what? Old Navy will pay you $50,000 to write a song for their ad? What?
Crazy.
You can write a song for Coca-Cola? I didn't get that. Plus, not just being a composer. That was my idea. Like, oh, you write jingles. No, people who are songwriters like Christina Perri and Ingrid Michaelson and Snow Patrol, like cool bands, Regina Spektor and Ben Rector, cool bands that I liked. Artists were writing songs, their own songs that they would license. Like Randy Newman writes a song for Toy Story. That's not like a John Williams orchestration. It's a song. So I decided I'm going to try to do that. I've never thought about it. I'm going to do it. And what I learned, Jen, is that I started to reach out to people at Netflix, ABC, Paramount. I was so scared. I was cold calling, didn't have the right questions, didn't have the right pitch, didn't know what I was doing. But I figured out that the difference between a hobby and a business is that if it's a business, by definition, someone else wants this thing. Someone else is paying me, which means they need to want it or need it. So I realized all those years of being a creative, I would be like inspired and I would write a song and I would try to send in a demo and it was all about me and it was all about my inspiration. And as soon as it was a business, it was, what story are you telling? What's the movie about? What's the trailer about? And I went, oh, this is what business is at its core. Business at its core is radical empathy. Validating a business is, does this other person have a need or a want and can I fill it? And so I started to make money, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 every single year. And for a decade, I was the songwriter who was living in LA, buying a house, paying my mortgage, writing music. And other songwriters
and
were
pinching yourself?
Pinching myself. I would go to the mailbox. I mean, it's crazy to think about it, honestly, now, because now I make about $5 million a year. But at the time, making $300,000, I'd go to the mailbox and the tears would stream down my face. I'd be like, I can't believe Hasbro paid me $60,000 to write this cute song for their new board game, Words with Friends. I mean, it's just like crazy. So, what happened is I started to be featured in magazines and on all these magazines, legit Billboard magazine, Variety would say like, can we interview you, do a full page on how you're doing this without an agent, without a record label, DIY. And then I got this knock from other songwriters saying, can you teach me this? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know how. I'm not a teacher. So I resisted that. And then it just kept coming. And I think when God is calling you to do something, he makes it super duper clear. Yeah. But sometimes we're so fragile about our ego. I'm this, but I'm not this, but I am this. But so I just couldn't see the yes and. And so I said, what if I and was teaching, not but, not or. And so I said, let me just do it scrappy. I'll invite 10 of these songwriters to my living room and I'll teach them what I know and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. And they were hanging on my every word. What do you mean you know what themes? What do you mean you know what Netflix is needing? What do you mean they need a sister song? What does that mean? How do you know who to talk to? How do you know what to write in the contract? How do you know that you can keep the ownership? I'm like, oh my God, there's so much here.
Yes.
So I was pregnant with my third daughter in 2017. This is not so long ago.
Not so long ago, actually. Yeah.
And I'm making $300,000 a year and I'm writing music and I'm pretty happy about it. I got 2 days a week in the studio, 3 days a week I'm with my kids,
Mhm.
and it's a pretty cool life. And I decide, I think I'm going to teach an online course called Six Figure Songwriting. And I didn't know what I was doing, Jennifer. I had never seen a webinar. I didn't have an email list. I
Right.
wasn't an online person. I was a songwriter writing music B2B, me
Right.
for Disney,
Yeah.
right. So I decide I'm going to just do it. I have this baby coming. I'm going to do it just scrappy. Like I do everything with this naivete.
Yes.
Like, let's just try it. My very first launch, I did a webinar with no slides, didn't know what I was doing, right
Yeah.
to camera, big belly, pregnant, summer, hot, LA, just taught, gave value. And at the end I said, this is my program. It's going to be $997 for a year.
Mhm.
If you want in, let me know. I made 147 grand. And I went, huh,
Huh. Ding, 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 ding,
interesting.
ding.
It's interesting. So then I had the baby teaching
Mhm.
the class. And I was like, I really like doing this. I can like just make money by now being in the living room. I don't have to go to the studio if I don't want
Right.
to. But I was still doing studio stuff because I did like it. And I started to say, what if I did the launch better? The next launch I made 440 grand.
Mhm.
The next launch I made $1 million. The next launch I made $1 million. And I went, okay, this is amazing. Well, while that was happening, one of my songwriting students, Amy Loftus, she says to me, Cathy, one of my friends works in podcasting. She helps sell ads for Bill Burr, Adam Carolla, Ira Glass. I said, oh, that's cool. She said, why don't you start a podcast? Because what you're teaching fundamentally is helping artists take their passion project and validate their ideas and figure out how to send the right emails and figure out how to do work that other people need. And this is a whole show. So I said, let me just try it. So I start the show, 3 kids, songwriter, selling
No
music.
excuses. Yep.
And the podcast now, we are 3 years in, we're at 15 million downloads. And I've gotten to meet Howard Schultz from Starbucks and Mandy Moore and Bobby Brown. And all these cool people have been on the show. And the prerequisite to being on my show is that you've done something you love and you started from nothing and you built something awesome. And it's been amazing to interview people I've adored all my life, billionaires, millionaires,
Right.
cool women, people who I just adore. The show grew and I started teaching new programs. I started teaching people how to take their side hustle and turn it into something really legit and really how to break things down. And I just love it. I mean, it's
So
just
tell
amazing.
me, what do you think your secret sauce is? I just wrote a book about what I think my secret sauce is. I think my secret sauce is I do things even though I'm afraid. And I'm afraid of a lot. So what do you think your secret sauce is?
I think for me, it comes down to, I kind of said it before, but I think for me, it's like this, it's an empathy empire. What I do really, really well is make people feel seen.
That's really
And I think when you drop in and there's like super duper connection, I think sales is actually just intimacy.
I love
So
that so much.
I think when you can go deep in a room, in a meeting, in a conversation, in a webinar, and it's not slides and it's not funnels and it's
Yes.
not, and it's like, it's just like, let's meet, let's really drop into a place where we can resonate together. I think people are so desperate to be seen that, and I love doing that. And if you knew my childhood story, which we don't have time to get into, but just in one sentence, I will tell you, I was that person at home. Like my parents had a really tough marriage, wound up getting divorced. My mom suffered from like manic depression my whole life. And I was always that sort of like cheerleader, peacemaker, mediator. So I think I have a deep degree of empathy and I think I'm able to make it about other people. And I really like doing that. It actually feels better to me
I
than
love
making it
that.
about me.
I also love that you said, and I totally am going off script here, I know, but I love that you said, because it's the same story that I had. People were asking you to teach them, and you were like, whoa, no, I'm not that. And
Yeah.
isn't it interesting because I was writing about this in my book that I think that even though we don't want to be put in a box, and especially creatives, like when creatives are kind of given a label and you have to do one thing, and we internally we kind of fight that and we throw elbows, but being put in a box and knowing like what hat we're supposed to wear also feels really comfortable to most of us. And so it's interesting because when the first person that asked me to like teach them how to do something in business too, I'm like, whoa, 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 I'm not a teacher. Like, yeah, that's not what I am. I'm a lot of things. I'm a hot mess. I'm a creative. I'm a painter. I'm an artist. I'm a whatever. But I'm not a teacher. And I really resisted that hat for a while. And it sounds like you did the same thing. And so I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, so I also love
100%.
that you did it Scrappy because I'll bet money on Scrappy every single day of the week. I'll put money on Scrappy over Smart any single day of the week. And so I love it that you did it with 3 kids at home and you just got crap done. So that's amazing. So then you decided to write a book. And will you tell us about your book? Because your book is amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting because I started the podcast and within 2 episodes, I got a call from this woman who said, I work at Macmillan and I was in the subway and I was listening to your episode and this is a book. And I'm like, what? A book? I
What
haven't
is
written
that
anything.
on your second podcast? That is
Yeah.
amazing.
It was amazing because Apple featured us on my first episode. And when I say featured, like they didn't feature us in New and Noteworthy, which would have been awesome.
Really? Okay.
They featured us on the top scroll of like, there's like 7 podcasts a week. And
Yes.
like they'll put it at the top on that sort of banner where it like
Yeah.
goes around in the carousel and it stays up there for a week. They featured us as one of those shows. And then they featured us 5 more times like that first year.
And were you
And
just,
then
like, what did that make you feel like? Because
I don't even get it. I was like, this is
why? What's
insane.
happening?
Like, what is happening? Yeah, what is happening? And I was in my closet recording those first episodes. So I wrote a book and it was like a love-hate relationship with writing it because I haven't written anything since high school. I didn't know what the heck this was going to be like. And I had to stop and say, what is it that I'm saying in this podcast? And I don't want it to be a regurgitation. I want it to be a very step-by-step clear book that you start somewhere, you get somewhere by the end. But I loved writing it in the end because it helped me really distill down what are the messages of the show. And the book is essentially about coming home to yourself, understanding that you were built to serve. And as a matter of a fact, God doesn't make extras. And you know that, which is why you're unfulfilled at your day job, because you want to feel that you are showing up as yourself. I said it before, everyone wants to feel seen. So the book starts in that place where it's like, what were you really put here to do?
Right.
It then starts to show you what is the branch that you can reach toward. I don't think that people do the things that they do, I think people reach for the highest branch they can see. So when I said, is there any other way for me to make money in 2007? It was because I either saw you're famous and you're lucky, or you work at a day job. And because that was the only lenses I had on, that was all I could kind of, those were the paths that I could choose to walk down. As soon as I saw a new path, I was all in. So that's why in today, and we can talk about it later, I want to show people a new possibility. What do you do during a pandemic? What do you do right now? How do you find new ways? So every week on my show, twice a week on my show, I'm showing people examples of like, have you ever thought of doing this? Have you ever thought of doing that? We have dressmakers, screenwriters, sketch artists, Etsy shop owners, people who create memberships, people who create courses, people who create a whole world just out of their blog, right? Like there's so many possibilities. And then you go, oh my God, I'm all in. That's it. So the book walks you through possibilities. And then it says, okay, these are the steps you need to take in order to begin to actually create this and actually make this into something where now you're not just dreaming, you're making $1,500 a month, $6,500 a month. Now you're cooking and now you're going to scale that. And what does that look like? And what are the ways that we actually go and do it?
Okay. I love that. So how do you actually, does the book actually help people find some clarity in what they're actually meant to do? Or how do
The book helps you find clarity. Every chapter has a lot that leads you there. And then at the end of the chapter, there's takeaways and journal prompts. And then in the middle of the book, there's a whole section on the different archetypes, the different kinds of passion projects that are probably really meant for your skill set. And then there's a quiz on my website. I created it with a psychologist over the summer, cathyheller.com. Your passion finder quiz helps you figure out like, no, this is really the kind of job that would not feel like work. And these are the ways that I could do that and work for myself. It's pretty cool. So it's a pretty robust quiz.
Quizzes are cool. We have a really great quiz too. And the reason I love quizzes is because I'm like, look, if you're going to take a quiz on like, what kind of cheese am I most like? Or what kind of Disney princess? I'm like, at least take a quiz that's going to help you with something in your future.
Right. Quizzes are really fun. Yeah. And I remember like reading like Cosmo and wanting to do the quizzes as fast as I could.
Right. And I think it's because everybody likes to find out things about themselves, and quizzes help us do that. So it's a quick business tip for those of you who are listening right now. If you don't have or use a quiz as a way to get people into your email funnel, I think it's one of the absolute best ways to get people.
And maybe I should just tell you this. So the archetypes that we have in the book and in the quiz, you can either be one of 4 is where the quiz leads you. It's either maker, teacher, curator, or investigator. And let me run that down for you right now. So in the work that I do, we've done over 300 episodes of the podcast, and I look back and I was able to say every person fits into one of 4 buckets. Some people actually do all 4 or 3. Everyone's job that they're talking about on the show fits into one of 4 buckets. So let's go over that.
Okay.
So the maker type is the person who writes the song, makes the pottery, who designs the jewelry. That's the maker, pretty straightforward.
Yep.
The teacher person is the person who's going to teach you how to make the pottery, who's going to teach you how to write the songs, who's going to teach you how to do the photography, who's going to teach you productivity, teach you organizing, coaching, teaching those kinds of systems, teaching those kinds of creative things. Okay. So you got maker, teacher. What's a curator? Curator is the person who they don't want to make the thing and they don't want to teach the thing, but they have such good taste and they could put together a panel of the people who are talking about mindfulness, happiness, design. That is incredible because you get to be unlimited. You get to basically be the person who's like, I don't need to be the expert. Mm-hmm. I'm going to curate an evening of photographers who all take photos of Coney Island. And we're going to look at the different ways Coney Island is depicted. Or I'm going to create an event for female entrepreneurs online, a summit. And I'm just going to choose all the best podcasters and all the best women who speak about low ticket, high ticket. So you got maker, teacher, curator. And the last one is investigator. Jennifer, there've been people on my podcast who don't make a thing. They don't teach a thing and they don't curate a thing. What they do is they investigate a thing and they make a living from that. What does that mean? They have a blog. They have a podcast. They have a book series. Yes. Gretchen Rubin is a person who was not happy. And she was on my podcast and she talked about her journey of being miserable. And she had checked all the boxes. She had gone to the best school. She was working for the Supreme Court and she was miserable. And she said, I'm not happy. I got to go investigate happiness. She took people on that journey with her to say, what would it look like to be happier? And she wrote this book called The Happiness Project. She investigates happiness. She gets paid to talk about what she learns. You could investigate baseball, parenting, health, wellness, nutrition, candle making, sports, like the show Love is Blind. Like you could do any of that. And yep, you could make a living from that. So when you look at those 4 things, in my book, we go over that. In the quiz on my website, it tells you which one you'd be best suited for. And then when you take the quiz on my website, it then sends you all the different ways that could look. Like if you wanted it to be the teacher type, oh my God, you could create an online course. You could hold an in-person workshop, which now wouldn't be ideal. Right. If you wanted to be a curator, what are the different ways you can make money? What are the different episodes where people have talked about making 6 figures, 7 figures, multi-7 figures from doing the curator, the teacher, the maker? If you're a maker, are you selling to B2B? Are you doing commission work? Are you doing an Etsy shop? How are you making a living? But absolutely, the point is, there's so much possibility that it gets you so excited. And when you can see other women who have good hearts, who have faith, who have families, who don't have to sacrifice being a good person or a mother, and they're able to make a lot of money being paid to be themselves, it gets you pretty hot and bothered. So that's what my book is about. And that's what my show is about.
I love it so much. So talk to me, by the way, I love the title, Don't Keep Your Day Job. If somebody is going to quit a day job, you recommend an exit strategy of some sort, don't you?
I'm all about build the bridge. Build the bridge instead of taking the leap. Every single thing that I have done, whether it's music, like starting that music and licensing my music, or starting the course, or starting the podcast, or starting the next course, everything was built as a sidecar to the thing I was doing. Okay. And you know what? It actually makes it easier when you do that, because what people don't realize is it's not like you just quit your job. Now you have all the free time in the world and you're going to be profitable. Right. Because in order to be profitable, we have to do this big old thing that starts with a V, which is validate the business. And when you're validating a business, you don't do that by putting the thing on Etsy. You don't do that by just raising your hand and saying, here it is, it's validated. A lot of people build businesses backwards. They think that business is built by going off in your little ivory tower, go off in your cave, come up with the idea for the app, draw out the whole fashion line, come up with no. It starts the opposite way. You go to the person it's for and you take their order. What do you want? What do you need? What pain am I solving? What's your biggest heart's desire? Is there a need for this? I'll be right back. Let me do that. Now, what about this? Hotter, colder, warmer, softer, red, green, yellow? What flavor? What do you want? How do you want it? When do you want it? You're designing it in tandem with the person you're making it for. It is so much more effective than trying to just shoot blanks in the air and hit some target you can't see. Business, by definition, means somebody else wants or needs it. So you go to the person. So often people come to me and they're like, what do you think? That I'm like, have you asked the person this is for?
It really doesn't matter what you think.
Right. It doesn't at all.
Yeah.
No, like people will be like, I want to make vegan cupcakes and I want to do this, this, and this. I'm thinking of selling this. I'm I'm like, okay. I say, who's one woman you know who eats vegan cupcakes?
Yeah.
Marissa. Great. Have you asked Marissa what flavors, what problems she has finding that flavor, what she wants in it? Is it that she finds vegan cupcakes right now and that's fine, but they're also not gluten-free and that's what she really needs? Or is it that she wants them that they look cooler or something that their kids would like, or she wants them with Elmo on them? What does she want? Oh, what is she paying for them? What would she pay for them? And where does she hang out? And where would she hear about you? And where do you need to go to be in her vision? Oh, okay. And you start with this. Also, people forget every human on average has 400 Facebook followers.
Yes, they do.
So why on earth do we not understand?
The number was 400. Interesting.
The average.
Interesting. Is that shocking to you, or would you have thought that would have been higher or lower? I would have thought it would have been actually a little higher.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
How many Facebook friends do you have?
I probably have 2,000.
Oh, really? You are very popular.
Oh, and I actually try not to add people.
I do too. I say no.
It's annoying. I don't want my business stuff mixed with my friends.
Right. I agree 100%. So 400. Okay. So 400 on average. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So out of those people, you're saying there should be somebody that you know that you can ask about the thing that you're thinking about.
Well, that's number one. But number two, what I'm saying is that we overestimate what it's going to take to build a side hustle and to build a really profitable side hustle. Let me give you an example. My friend went to Carnegie Mellon. So she went for theater. She's a very talented actress and she was living in LA, grinding, working a waitressing job and a catering job and trying to audition. And it would be like, she'd be shooting herself in the foot. She wouldn't even have time to go on the auditions or she'd lose the catering gig. And I said to her, why don't you teach theater just 2 hours a week to kids? And she's like, what does that mean? I said, well, I'm paying $52 for my daughter to go to a group gymnastics class.
Yeah.
My daughter's piano class is $55. So like, let's say it was $50 for 15 humans. She's like, yeah. I said, that's $750 for an hour.
Yeah.
Then if you taught 2 classes, so you had 2 groups of 15.
Yeah.
$1,500 a week for 2 hours. I said, have you ever added that up? That's $6,500 a month. Have you ever made $6,500 a month waitressing? And she goes, what are you saying right now? I'm like, I'm saying stop spending 40 hours a week on your feet where you're exhausted. Yes. Take 2 hours and teach 15 students a piece. So then back it up and say, what would I have to do to get in front of the moms who are going to actually write that check? Where do they live? What are the blogs locally? What kinds of free offers? What kinds of free content? What kinds of ways can I start to plant the seeds? And then it's not that you need 400,000 followers. It's not that you need all 400 people who follow you. You need a core of a few people who want what you want. When I started doing the songwriting thing, I remember putting out that webinar. And when I made that first $147,000, my program at the time was $1,000. Now that program is $3,000 and it's so well worth it. But for $1,000, I needed out of the entire world, 147 songwriters in the world, because it was online. I could then be with anyone. And that is when you think about how much abundance of humans, there's billions of people online every day on Facebook. You can't serve a few hundred a year.
Right. This is what drives me crazy when people are like, are the markets, is the painting market oversaturated? And I'm like, no, sweetie, do you know how many people are in the world? Like, they're like, but there's already so many people teaching painting classes online. I'm like, it's kind of like when you buy a red Jeep, you suddenly notice everybody else.
Right. You see it everywhere.
You're just hyper aware of everybody that's doing what you're doing, but your clients, your ideal client, they are not. They don't know that there's other people doing what you're doing. And so I
also, you can, how many people, like for all of us, right? Is there ever an end to how many people you can add to who inspires you? No. Every day I look for new people to follow on Instagram who have, I'll always be fascinated. Like, who is this woman?
That is so
I've never even heard of.
Unfollow people.
That's funny.
I'm like, I see too many people in my feed. I just need to clean
That's interesting. But like, the point is that I feel there's no shortage, right? Like, We do better in tribes. So in a world of 7 billion people, do we have enough leaders for small tribes? We don't. We have like a few thousand leaders for billions. So what we need is more leaders to say, I'll gather with this, I'll circle up with this group, I'll circle up with this group. That's what we need. And everyone's waiting for you to give yourself permission to just go and do the darn thing.
I love it that you talk about tribes. It's totally biblical.
Yeah, well, we are, I mean, I'm a Jew and we're one of 12 tribes, and tribes are really important. And we all come from that, no matter where you come from, whether we come from sitting around campfires and telling stories and being in community. That's how we do better. We don't function well on our own, which is really what I want to say about the pandemic and what I would do right now. If I could wave a magic wand and help everyone listening, it really centers around that.
Yes. So that kind of leads me into my next question then. So for people who have lost their jobs right now, Cathy, or they're being furloughed, what advice would you have for them right now? So, because I think a lot of people are all of a sudden like, oh crap, the world just changed dramatically very quickly, and they're not sure what to do at this point. They don't even know where to start. I'd love to do something online, but I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. So first thing is to understand the possibility, right, of what's actually there. So you go, wait, what? So I like to tell people, I would love for you to go ahead and research and see if you can find the answer to the following question. Is there a woman online who I admire, who has a beautiful family, who has her faith, who's a good-hearted person, who's making so much money, and she's doing it online? And you're going to find many answers. That's the beautiful thing. I mean, you and I, last time we talked about Lindsay Letters, who I adore, who makes a beautiful living online with her art.
Yes.
And I could literally list for you right now 17 people who are women who I admire, who are mothers, who I would trust at 4 a.m. if my heart was broken, if I was pulled over because my car had. Those are the kind of people making millions online with all kinds of things, from their actual work, from their hand lettering, to courses, to helping people digitally organize, right? And running groups, so many things. So first is like, know the possibility. But here's what I want to tell you. There are people who right now in this moment are going to finally have a chance to say, what do I really want? This whole job that I now don't have, do I really want it to go back to the way it was?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the truth is that what we're seeing is what they're saying a lot. You're hearing this word a lot, essential businesses, right? We're hearing essential businesses. I want to unpack that for a second. I believe that what is essential is what will sustain. And I'm curious if some of the businesses that won't sustain, they're not really essential. Like, does the world need more stuff? Or do we really need more connection? And what we're seeing is, if you look at the data from a year ago, before the pandemic, 1.6 million Americans attempted suicide last year. And 54% of the US was taking some kind of antidepressant. That is terrifying.
Staggering.
And horrible.
Awful.
So what I think is, for the very first time in a very long time, what's being highlighted is social distance and isolation. And because it's so on display, we're doing something about it. And people are Zoom calling with their mom that they don't do enough. And people are making it a point to see their friends on Zoom because their life depends on it right now. Right. And so I'm wondering if what people might be able to make in this time isn't necessarily more stuff, but are they going to create experiences, belonging, connection? While we're seeing that certain businesses are completely plummeting and people are losing their jobs, what's also happening, Hasbro is having a spike in sales because people are buying jigsaw puzzles and games. Online courses are having a spike.
Yes, they are.
We are seeing 300% increase in the attention for us, for our online business, 300% increase. People are here. The mic is on. Everyone's connecting. Everyone's present. And what we're seeing that people are paying for is things that they want to bring connectivity into their homes. People are buying yeast. People are buying baking utensils, baking with their kids.
Girl, I bought myself a rolling pin last week. I've never made a pie crust from scratch in my life. And guess who's about to make a pie crust?
I love that. And I've done that with my girls. Every day we've baked something, banana bread, popovers, waffles from scratch. And we've never done that. We're all out of our flour. We need more flour. And we're icing things and we're learning things. So people are saying that they're seeing in the data. So hard facts. People are buying classes in baking. People are buying things for their children because guess what? Camps are going to be closed and people are going to need stuff for their kids to do.
100%.
So there's like boxes coming to the door with different things that people can make. There's like building, engineering stuff, STEAM stuff for kids to build things. There's like icing stuff where there's a local business that was so smart, a cookie business. They started making packages that come to the door with the icing and the cookies separate and the decorations, and people are selling out of them. Like they can't keep them in stock. So what are we seeing? We're seeing that what humans want more than anything, which they wanted last year, which is why there was so much suicide. They want connection. They want the experience. So this brings me to my point, which is I made $300,000 a year writing music and I thought I had hit the jackpot. Being in the studio for me is better than Disneyland any day. And I love it. And I love writing music and I love playing my ukulele and I like to sing. But what I never knew is that for every song I wrote and for every dollar I made, there would be a line of people around the block wanting me to teach them how I did what I did, wanting to pay me to show them how I'm doing the thing I just made, the thing I just did. So I feel like the connection piece is what I've really gotten out of creating these courses and what makes my courses work. I don't sell DIY, watch at your own pace videos. I sell high touch. We're going to be on Zoom and it's the community and it's the transformation. The people in my classes are saying, thank God I have this right now. This is my lifeline. We connect, we come together, we make things together. We keep each other accountable. We implement, we do the work. So in this moment, I would say, is there anything that you love to do in community? Do you want to create a poetry evening? I have somebody in one of my classes who just created a mom's night out evening. It's a membership. So she's curating a comedian once a week, a breathwork teacher once a week. She's doing all kinds of stuff and people are paying for it. They're like, get me at it. Oh my God, it's full. I want to be in the next one. So I would say right now, we are looking at a huge surge. And if you're not part of this mission right now, you're missing a huge opportunity because to create an online course right now is such a gift. But I would say make it about the connection part. And there are so many cool ways to do that so that the course is not about information. It's about implementation. It's about connection. It's about coming together. That's really the part that people want more than the information, because information is all over YouTube for free. It's everywhere.
Right. I love that so much. Okay. So as we wrap up here, because I know you've got other things going, I want to ask you three questions that are just for fun, and then we'll figure out where to find you online. So favorite book of all time, of ever?
Oh boy.
You can do two if you must.
I mean, the Bible's way up there for me. I lived in Jerusalem for 3 years before I came to LA. So pretty big fan of that.
Pretty big difference also. Going from one extreme to the next.
Jerusalem to LA, definitely different. Yeah, it was like Jerusalem to Sodom and Gomorrah, like
that
straight.
That could be your next book, actually.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many books that I love. I'm going to go with like Jennifer Weiner, like In Her Shoes. I like a good chick lit book. I'm all about the Emily Giffin, Something Borrowed. If I'm going to chill, I want it to be mindless. I want to just have fun.
Okay. Awesome. Favorite room in your house?
The kitchen is pretty great. We have one of those open concept kitchens with like the really pretty marble island and the lights. And it's just my whole family just basically for whatever reason, that's always where we all hang out, right? Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. And your favorite place to vacation, if and when we get to vacation again?
What a great question. I don't know if you've ever been there, but the Smoky Mountains is one of the most magical places. There's so many little towns in South Carolina, like in the Smokies, where it's like mossy hills.
Say that because Ari, the little girl we're adopting, her great grandmother, who's my aunt, lives in the Smoky Mountains, but we have never been there. I know, right?
It feels like God is hugging you in like one of those delicious blankets. It's like mossy hills with hammocks and waterfalls and streams, and
love it.
There's something about that place that it's one of the most beautiful places. I hope that you get to go.
Do you think you'll, and those were all my questions, but do you think you'll stay in LA?
I feel ready to go, but it's like it's such a tug. I feel like there's so much electricity in Los Angeles. It's
Yeah.
hard to leave it. I feel like it keeps me sort of like on top of my game in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think to myself, but we could downshift and we could have maybe like a more expansive terrain, right? More land. And I do think sometimes that would be better for my kids, because my kids live in a little bit of a bubble in Beverly Hills. It's a little bit of it's an interesting look at the world.
Right.
You know, they're not really seeing.
Yeah. I can only imagine. All right. So you're amazing. Tell people where they can connect with you online. Where should they go to find out more about you, stalk you on the interwebs?
Please come connect with me. I'm a psychopath. I'm on my Instagram in all the DMs. So on Instagram at Cathy.Heller. Website's Cathy Heller. Cathy spelled with a C. And the podcast is Don't Keep Your Day Job wherever you listen to podcasts.
And I love the name of your book and your podcast so much, just so you know.
Thank you. That's really, thank you. You're so clever. I love everything that you share. I took so many notes when you were on my show, because you're a fire hose.
I'm taking notes talking to you. I think you're so smart and you're so personable, and I hope that we get to meet in real life soon.
Same.
Okay. So Cathy, you're awesome. Friends, go track down Cathy. Since you're sitting here listening to a podcast, that means you're a podcast listener. So go over and subscribe to Don't Keep Your Day Jobs podcast. I mean, those are your downloads are hashtag goals, girl. So
you are hashtag goals. Look at the beauty of who you are and what you put out in the world. Everything is so dignified. I feel like you're such a class act. And if you guys are listening to the show, tag Jennifer and tag me so that I can reshare it and thank you personally.
I appreciate that so much. All right, Cathy, God bless you. And
God bless you.
All the things, honey. Run to your next meeting. Friends, go find her on the internet. Follow her there. And thanks again so much for listening to the podcast. We will talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.